Brandon Rector.
Putting the spotlight on local businesses in the capital city. This is 402 Business Insider with Travis Filing and Gary Tharnish on 1499.3 KLIN.
And good morning, Lincoln. You're listening to the 402 Business Insider. Today is our first sponsors are Wyuka Cemetery and Lincoln Coin and Bullion. I'm Travis Filing with Transformation Marketing, and with me, as always, Gary Tharnish, Home Design Real Estate Group. How you doing, Gary?
I am doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Yeah. Any open houses in this hot weather
I
coming
have
up?
one tomorrow.
Oh, lucky
I'm
you.
kind of taking the afternoon off, which is rare. I say that, but I'm sure that'll change. I mean, I don't control my schedule to some degree. But good.
One of your people drives by a house and goes, hey, we need to get in there and have a look at that.
Then we go look
and
at
there goes your schedule.
That is right. Yes.
Well,
yes.
you signed up for it. So.
That's right. I did. And I love it. So it works out really good.
Well, our guest today is Denny Van Horn with Van Horn Custom Homes. Thanks for coming in. How are you?
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
We're glad to have you.
It's always one of those 4th of July weekend. It's kind of hard to go, oh man, who wants to come in the middle of especially when it falls on a Friday. Nice long weekend, but definitely appreciate you coming in and having a chat with us.
Absolutely.
So, Van Horn Custom Homes is, how long have you been in business now?
14 years.
14, okay.
Nice.
And what did you do before that?
I worked for Lincoln Public Schools for 38 years.
Oh, my goodness.
I was started out as a shop teacher at Irving Junior High. And interestingly enough, I run across kids that I had as students that are in the trades.
Oh, wow.
And nothing could make an old woodworking vocational educator more happy than to know that you kind of helped some kids find their way. And some of them, one of my painters, he actually, with two other guys, he owns the company.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, so I started out at Irving, and then I went to Central Administration, had a lot of great opportunities, and was associate superintendent for business and operations for 8 years, and had all the facilities budget, all that stuff. So
that is cool. I don't know why. It seems like shop class is almost dying. Like, nobody wants to go take shop class anymore, and it's like, man, these kids are missing huge opportunities.
Well, and I think a part of that is, in many ways, they've moved everything to a technology base, and so there's not as much hands-on production, and I think we're losing on that, but I think I'm watching, like, Southeast Community College, their trades department, they're busting at the seams.
Yeah.
And so we're starting to see a shift towards, hey, you know what? I could get in a trade, and a couple things are going to happen. I'm going to get a good paycheck, and I'm going to love what I'm doing every day. And I always used to tell kids, if you get into that, you can drive by something that you are part of in coming years and say, I helped do that.
Yeah, that's so cool. My dad was an electrician, so we would go eat at Tico's because he wired it.
Yeah.
And all these different places in town that he wired, we'd do, that was back in the day when you would do your Sunday morning drives after church. We'd go for a drive through town, and he'd be like, oh, this is a new part of town. I wired that house. And that crazy lady, she had to have 12 outlets on her counter, or something. I mean, I always had a story. My daughters went to Irving.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were really excited to take shop until they figured out that you really never go to Gateway and buy anything.
Yeah.
No other mall. So
wrong kind of shop class.
I did teach them to measure twice and cut once. So that's covered.
I had a lot of girls that took shop in those days. That was the early 70s. In fact, one of them is currently a Nebraska Supreme Court judge.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So, how cool is that?
It was, and I run into them, throughout daily progress, and it's fun to catch up with them and to find out what everybody's doing, and
that has to be cool living in it, because you've lived here your whole life.
Yeah.
And so tons of hundreds of thousands of kids must know you as adults.
Yeah, I a lot of them. I have a lot of acquaintances that I had, that I had as students. So,
and do they still call you Mr. Van Horn?
They do, but I get that stopped real quick. It's just not necessary.
You know what's funny? So I'm not from here, but when it was probably about 10 years ago, I actually ran into one of my science teachers from out of state, and I'm like, that
So
can't
random.
be Mr. Blue. Is that? And you walk, and of course, you call everybody by their first name except the teachers. It's still
Yep.
ingrained into you to go,
Yep.
Mr. Blue. He goes, no,
Stop.
it's Darwin. Just call me Darwin.
Stop with that. Yeah, exactly. I love that.
So, as a shop teacher, then, is that what pushed you to, or led you to get into this business? Did you do it on the side?
Oh yeah, when I started teaching, my annual salary was $4,800.
Whew.
And so during the summers, I did remodeling, and we lived. My wife's father was a farmer, so I started my own custom baling service and did things like that. But so that was a part of it. But my father and his two brothers and grandfather, they originally had a company called Van Horn Family Building Company. And when I started with my son and his wife and my wife, we called the company Van Horn Family Building Company, and we still have that. That's kind of our property holding company. But they built the Congress Inn Motel and ran the Congress Inn Motel for
on West O, right?
Yeah, on West O,
Was
and
that
then
forever?
built the Senate Inn, and when they changed Capitol Beach from an amusement park, which a lot of people don't even know that Capitol Beach.
Oh, I
no
used to go
idea.
out there when
Yeah.
I was a kid.
Well, when
Yeah.
when they started developing that, they actually, and I was a part of helping built some of the first houses out there. So I've always been around it, and then I went from shop teacher to my final years as in charge of all the facilities and everything, and we were building and remodeling, and I loved doing it, and so I decided once I left, I worked for Train for 4 years and consulted and went around the state of Nebraska and did energy conservation projects for schools because Train was into that big, and I knew all the administrators and
Perfect.
I got to tell you, part of that was my golf game got really good because we played a lot of golf, and that's
Sure.
all part of business. But,
Oh, yeah.
and so I just kind of kept in that line of work, and I just decided when Andy and Michelle came to me and said, let's start a business, it was kind of a natural to do it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Hey, for our 20-something-year-old producers, when we were making $4,500 a year, average house was like $25,000-26,000. Just so you know,
Yeah.
it wasn't like we weren't on Section 8 or anything.
Well, and the other thing you need to know is, there's a lot of discussion about interest rates. When my wife and I, we built a house out near Malcolm on an acreage. We bought 6 acres of property out there and built our own house, and did it as we had money. We got a little impatient, so we went to borrow money, and I think that was probably about 1975, 76. The interest rate was 17%.
Yeah, my first home in '81, I paid 17.15%. It had just come down from like the all-time high of 18 something.
Jeez.
Which is crazy, right? Minimum wage is $1.29.
Yeah.
You worked hard for your money back then too.
Yeah.
Well, when I moved out here, my wife lived over in near South and owned a house there, which I was blown away that a 21-year-old, 22-year-old could afford to buy a house. But she was on a NIFA target area.
Sure.
And her loan was 1%.
Yep.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I need some of that.
That can still be a real good deal if you can get it.
Yeah. Good luck.
And I'll tell you, one of my biggest concerns is we're not creating any starter homes right now. And Gary, you know this better than anybody. In order for somebody to get a starter home, somebody needs to move out of their starter home and move up, and we're just not seeing that, and a lot of it's the interest rates.
Yeah.
And it worries me because we could rent and we could accumulate a down payment. Well, you can't even do that anymore because your rent's
Yeah, it's through the
taking
roof.
everything you've got.
Yeah. When we sit there and we're empty nesters now, my son's getting ready to move out because we just bought him a house, but we look and go, gosh, I got 3,300 square feet. I got we have an in-ground swimming pool, which is just a chemistry. I hardly ever get in it.
Yeah.
It's just a chemistry lesson. And it's like, I don't need all this house. And we talk about maybe we should move. Well, you can't afford to.
Yeah.
You really can't.
Have you seen their house? Have you been out to that?
No.
Travis was like, I haven't either. But anyway, I guess they have an in-ground pool. Wow.
I've heard
I love
that.
to swim.
I've
Have you
heard
guys
that.
been invited out? No? Oh, they have, of course. Yes, the producers have been
That's
invited
absolutely.
out. But yeah, they're
Gotta know
key.
where your bread's buttered. Absolutely.
Well, to that point, though, we're just not building enough homes.
No.
Right.
I mean, the decade of 2010 to 2020, there were like 5,700,000 built in the United States. We need at least 25 million. A healthy market here in Lincoln is 2,000 to 2,500 homes on the market. We're at a high since I became a realtor. We're at a high now with around 800 to 850, and it's still a huge shortage.
Yeah.
You get, not only when you're paying high rent is it difficult to save to buy a house. When you finally do and you can go look, you're in competition with 7-8 people, and it's just, it's unhealthy. And what's weird about the interest rates is it's like they're high. Oh my God, they're high, but historically they're not.
Right.
Which is also, an ox. But I mean, you have to take so many things in consideration. Inflation right now is absolutely crazy. I'm considering driving to Omaha to save 10 cents on a gallon of milk. I'm joking, but I mean,
I know those people, though.
you get to this point where you're just like, the give and take of inflation's been crazy. We track lumber prices at work. Verd Sorensen, our broker, one of our brokers is always presenting that, which is through Millard Lumber, but it's just looking at it. And pre-COVID, this fairly steady. And at COVID, of course, it just skyrocketed. And then it's come down a bit and it's staying steady, but it's still way off what it was prior to 2020.
Right.
So, one thing I think for first-time home buyers that will be a good thing is that we have, begun to see some of the baby boomers that are at the top age of that rank selling their investment properties. I just saw one in Omaha, got a notice in Omaha, an investor there that's selling 24 properties. And they're all going to be good first-time home buyers. So I think we're going to start seeing some of that, but it still does not make up for the decades of not enough homes built, which there's something we can talk about, what the city could do to make that a little better.
Right. Well, that was going to be my question is you do see some of these investors who are starting to unload their properties, but why are they unloading them? It's probably taxes and insurance.
Oh, sure.
Which is another problem that we're facing because we just got our tax bill. We're up 45% across all of our properties on average. And taxes are up anywhere from 10 to 30%. I mean, the land that we have almost tripled.
Yeah.
And so now that's all got to be spread out amongst all the renters. And I think it's scary that we're in this weird spot going, okay, what's going to happen? Because people, if you see investors are starting to unload, why are they unloading? Mm-hmm. And does it say, do you guys think we're on a bubble? Do you think it's gonna crash? I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, this guy up in Omaha, I know, that's selling his properties. It's more just an age thing.
Yeah.
He's just like ready to be out of it, tired
Kids
of dealing
don't want
with
it.
it. Kids don't want it or not interested, that sort of a thing. And, ready to just, so we're going to see some of that. But, also another thing we talk about after the break is the amount of equity that people have in their homes that they don't realize.
Yeah.
So they see their tax rate go up, but they also haven't had, I'll do CMAs for people, comparative market analysis, let them know what their home is worth or do a quick analysis of, hey, what your home is worth. A lot of people, if they've had their home 15, 20 years, they refinanced. The amount of equity they have that Americans have right now is crazy. I'm not going to quote the number, but it's really, really big.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely massive.
Trillion.
Yeah, and just a piece of advice for our young listeners out there who are learning that they have equity: don't go get a home equity loan. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. It's so easy to get that cash and take a nice vacation. Don't do it. All right. Well, we got a break coming up here. So you are listening to the 402 Business Insider, talking with Denny Van Horn of Van Horn Custom Homes, and we will be back right after the break.
402 Business Insider on 1499.3 KLIN.
Hey, and we're back on the 402 Business Insider. This segment's brought to us by Integrated Behavioral Health Services, the Berry Law Group, and Complete Family Dermatology. Do yourself a favor. If you're going to go outside, you're going to light the firecrackers off, lather up, Skin cancer's a killer. I mean, seriously, you got to put on some what do they call that? I always called it coconut oil, but it's not. Sunscreen. There we go. Anyway, we're back. We're talking with Denny Van Horn from Van Horn Custom Homes. And so give us that kind of that, that 30,000 view. What's Van Horn? What's your mission? What's your company values? Tell us about that.
Well, as we've said, I've lived here my entire life, 74 years, 74 and a half.
But who's counting?
Yeah, but who's counting? My dad, when we were kids, my dad always told us, if you live in a community that has a shared well, you're responsible for upkeep. And I think about that daily. And, Lincoln's been really good to me. Lincoln Public Schools was good to me as a student. They were good to me as an employer. I owe this community a lot. So part of my vision in doing this is I want to improve this community. Mm-hmm. I love building houses. I don't have to do it to make money, but I love building houses, and I want to help improve the community. So our mission is not to build houses, it's to build homes. And when I walk away from one of the homes we build, I want to be able to say, I'd be proud to live there myself. And I want it to be a launching pad for families to build family traditions and to become or continue to be and be even better stewards of our community. And so we've got this mission of we want to build great homes that are good places for people to live, and we want to pay back to the community. And that's awesome. That's my goal.
And there's so many businesses and so many people out there that just don't have that sense of community anymore. And that's sad. I mean, it's awesome that you're doing that because, community's everything.
It's because we got rid of front porches and alleys.
There's some
with that.
There's some truth to that.
Yeah. Well, I got a front porch where I live, and we meet all of our neighbors. Granted, I know their dogs' names and very few of the two-leggeds, I don't know their name, but you meet a lot of people, and it does make a difference when you talk about community. Yeah. It's real easy to be detached from community these days. COVID didn't help, but it was long before COVID. Mm-hmm. These things, our phones and stuff, didn't help much at all, but it's good to see that back. You build a quality home. I mean, I've seen the homes that you build, and you do a really good job. Most builders in Lincoln do. There are an awful lot of really good homes built in Lincoln.
We are blessed in this community to have, I would say, at least 90% of the people that are out there building homes are quality builders. Yep. And you get your money worth. You have a quality project. And I'm going to tell you, that's not the way it is. You don't have to go very far towards Omaha to get to a point where that's not what the game is all about. So we have quality builders in Lincoln.
Yeah, which makes a big difference. I mean, when I travel, we do a lot of Airbnb, and every once in a while you'd be like, Jesus, place just about ready to fall down. And, you can see the lack of quality in the build itself. Some of these apartments that are being built are just incredibly built horribly. Some are great, but you get into some of them where it's like, I can hear the couple 3 apartments down.
Right.
Having a fight.
But, well, and I've got a good friend that's in the building industry, and he does residential and apartments, and he builds a quality home, and he builds a quality apartment.
It's nice.
Right now, you're talking for a 2-bedroom apartment, you're talking construction cost of in excess of $250 a unit, or $250,000 a unit.
Right. Yeah.
And that's, it's
a lot.
It's hard to cash flow that.
Oh,
yeah, it is.
Definitely.
It is. And that's where, because we have, some lots that I would love to develop, but we sit there and we look at it and we go, there's just no way. I could bring in a manufactured home, but I don't want to go down that road. Right. I'm not throwing shade on manufactured homes, but they're not, when we buy houses and work, we want it to last generations. And a lot of those, they just don't last for generations, and you can't make it cash flow. You can't even make it break even. I'd do it if it could break even. But it's just not a possibility anymore.
Well, and you have to listen to the market.
Yeah.
You could build it, but is somebody going to rent it?
Yeah.
Depending on where you are, what part of town, or if you're in a smaller community, all those things make a huge difference.
Yeah. I look at a couple of the places we have. Like, I have this little 1-bedroom house, and it's perfect. It's a great young couple place to rent. It's only $1,000 a month. It's very nice, brick, high end, and geez, we've had the same renters in there for years and years and years because it's cheap, it's nice. But I would love to be able to turn the handle on this thing and build 10 of these on the land that I own. Can't afford it because it would be $1,800 a month. Well, who's going to live in a one-bedroom house for $1,800 a month? Not too many people. You just can't afford to do it.
So, Denny, I want to build a home. I don't really know very much about it. What's that process look like? Do I have to have a plan and go buy one before I meet with you? What does that look like for someone that's never done that before? Maybe they've bought their first home and then they stepped up a little bit when they had their second child, and now they just want to build their dream home. What does that look like?
Well, I would say the first and most important step from my perspective is you got to find a builder. You need a builder because, I had a good friend that was an architect. He's retired now, and he used to say, "Man, we got to have the contractor involved. This was school design. We got to have a contractor involved because I can draw it. I don't know if it can be built." And so you don't buy the plans first. You get your builder on board, and preferably, if your builder can be a part of helping select lot and those kinds of things, that's number one step.
Well, let's circle back to that after the break. We need to.
Yeah, we got a hard break coming up here, so they're going to lop us off in a few seconds. You're listening to the 402 Business Insider, talking with Denny Van Horn of Van Horn Custom Homes, and we will be back right after this.
402 Business Insider on 1499.3 KLIN.
Welcome back to 402 Business Insider. This segment sponsored by Red Rhino Roofing. They're a great group.
Yeah, I saw Steve this morning as I was driving out of town.
Yeah, they are a great group. And also the UPS stores, which of course we had Brad in here, and he got us our fat heads.
I know.
Right?
And I remember to put it up, and then the cammers were knocked out for this show.
Yeah. I'm using the one of me a lot just to make people go get no, take it, get out of here. Kind of just leaving it in people's offices here and there. It's just funnier than
That's
heck.
Hilarious.
So before we went to break, we were talking about you're interested in building. What's that process look like, and where do we get started? So an important factor you said is find your builder first. So don't go out and hire somebody and create a plan that may not be able to be built or may cost you 4 times what you thought it would be to build. So they could just call a builder, call you, and just say, "Hey, I'm interested in building a home. Let's get together and chat." What does that first initial consultation look like?
Well, what I try to do is talk through the process, and I have all sorts of plans. I will tell you, in 14 years, I've never built 2 houses that are alike.
Then I was saying, I love that.
They're custom homes, and when I say custom homes, it's a custom home built for the people that are going to live there. And so I go through the process, and I explain to them how we get to a custom home for them, and I start right in at the very beginning we start developing plans. We start sketching, and then I get with the folks. I use New Ventures, and I get them and me together with the drafts people, and we start right away doing plans. And I always tell them there's no question that shouldn't be asked. Mm-hmm. Because you want to make sure that you have every question answered. The other thing I try to get them to understand is we're going to get to a budget, and the budget is going to be based on my cost plus my margin and overhead. And I tell people, let's not get into the process of, I don't think we can afford that. Let's don't do that now, because you don't want to get this home built and get to the point where you say, "Darn it, I wish we would have."
It doesn't work for you.
Yeah. And so I explained to them, here's how we will get to it not having you have to say I wish we would have, and we'll find places where we can make some efficiencies, but we want to make sure that this home is going to be your dream. And everybody says it be our lifetime home, and we all know that's probably not likely, because the natural cycle of life, you're going to, like you said, Travis, you get to a point where it's time to downsize.
You want to right size for where you're at life down. Yeah, it's going to happen. However, it's so important that it's functional, and it's functional for you. you and what you do, right? And you're not making sacrifices in the wrong place. Something you said that I think is so important. I do the same in my real estate work when I'm helping somebody find a house or sell their home or whatever, is that I control the process. I totally control the process. That makes it run smoothly. I've done it before. It's my job. You control every decision. Now, if you're making a decision or talk to me about a decision that I think could have an adverse outcome, I'm certainly going to say, yeah, you may want to rethink that. You know, in new builds, I get things like, well, let's just take that linen closet out and do this or whatever. And then you kind of go, okay, well, where are you going to put all your excess towels and your, and then you get the one thinks this and one thinks the other, and you have to coordinate all that together. But it is all about a process and communication.
Well, and I'm not big on for resale, you got to do this. Because I'm telling these people, that's not your main concern. This house, when you get to a point, if and when you want to sell it, it'll sell. That's when you get a good real estate agent, and they help you sell it. Build this house for you. And man, I never let people take a closet out. We're always looking for places, because I know a lot of houses get built in Lincoln where the stairs going down, there's space underneath and people just drywall that off. That's always a closet for me. That's always a closet, because storage. You're always going to have stuff. And I try to get people to understand, I don't oversize the mechanical room, but I tell them, until you own this house, this mechanical room is mine, and I'm going to put everything I need to in it, and there's not going to be a whole lot of space for you to do storage and things like that. I mean, it was like when I was with the schools, every mechanical room was shoved full of paper and this and that, and so, but just try to, and I'll take floor plans and I'll walk them through a floor plan and say, this is one we built, and this is why we did this, and this is what this does, and just try to get people comfortable with the process. And then, once we get started building, I'm there every day. Every day.
That makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it does.
And I'm at a point in my career where it's pretty much, I'm doing one at a time, and I'm there every day. And people will say to me, your subs must hate you. And it's just the opposite. They say, you're here when we have a question. All we got to do is tap you on the shoulder, and you help. And the other thing is, I like to help. I'll be in there helping electricians pull wire. I'll be in there helping do blocking and stuff like that and framing, because I just love doing that. But I'm there every day, and I say to once we get going, I say to my homeowners, if you can be there every day, I'm going to be there every day, and we can walk through, we can make sure, because it's hard for people to translate from lines on a piece of paper exactly how that's going to function. And is that really the right size? I had one early on. We were building a home for some people, and got the foundation up and everything. And this was a 2-story big house, and we were down in the basement, and the husband said, "Wow, this isn't very big." And I said, "Well, just wait. We get that thing framed up." And he looked at me one day and he said, "What did we do?" He said, "This is huge." and it's hard for people to translate that. And so I like to have people on site so they can ask questions, they can make suggestions, they can say, "How's this going to work? Did you remember we're going to do this?" Because it is their property. And I just remind them, you're on a construction site, so you got to be careful where you're walking. You got to watch out for things. But and I'll meet you there at any point on any day to talk and walk things through. On that same house where they thought it was going to be too small, they had a little daughter, and I think she was 8 years old, and we were in a big development, and there was a house and every day they would come, and she'd look at me, and she'd look over that other house, and she'd point out, and she'd say, "Denny, why are they so far ahead of you?" And I'd always say, "Well, because they started 2 months before I did, but it's, and I love that interaction with the people.
Right.
It's relationships.
A good thing too, when you're walking through it every day, especially as the person who's going to own the house, making changes is a heck of a lot cheaper during the construction process. Because I look at my house, I have a master bedroom, but no master bath. And Shannon, she goes, I really want a master bathroom. It's like, oh my gosh, we're on the second floor, and we can route this way, that way. If you think it's expensive when you're building, it's going to be at least double that.
Yeah.
After it's
renovating.
done. Yeah. Even if it's a day old.
Yeah.
It's going to be exponentially more expensive.
As we're planning and budgeting, I put a premium on what's behind the drywall. It's important. That infrastructure, that insulation, that plumbing, the wiring, all of that is critical. And that's and durability and long-term lasting and all of that. And so I like people to get in there and see what's going behind the drywall. And then, because they're investing a ton of dough.
Oh, yeah.
And when we're developing the budget, I'm very transparent. I pull out. I say to people, please, I don't give them copies because there's some issues with bids being shopped on this and that. But I show them everything and every dime, and we go through everything so they fully understand. This is what I'm paying for plumbing. This is what I'm paying for insulation. And so it's just a part of that. I think it's almost like I'm a part of the family before this is done.
Right, yeah. The relationship's everything.
Yeah.
I mean, my mentees that I have in their 20s are often asking, they're like, man, you really push like communication and personalities and talking. I go, because it's everything.
Yeah.
Like the sale and the bookkeeping and all that's like 5% of it really at the end of the day. With a builder, it is even more so. The building up of that trust, especially in your first consultations that you have with them, is vitally important because you've built a bunch of homes. They're building their first home.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So you think things and you know things and things you want or don't want, but it's very important to have the trust up front, which makes all the difference in the long run.
Absolutely.
I would think too, if you're building a home, to me, I've never built before. I'm hoping to, but yeah. But when I look at it, it looks like a daunting task because I've had a couple of friends that have built homes and they have catalogs of light fixtures and faucets, and it's like, oh my gosh, this would be. It seems like an overwhelming process.
It can be, and that's like when my homeowners go to pick out plumbing fixtures, I always go with them because there's a certain very well-known brand of plumbing fixtures, faucets and things like that just have historically been a problem. And so as they're picking out, I'll explain to them why I would recommend not doing that. And then the person at the supply house knows that's what I'm going to say. And so there's always an alternative. And I want to be a part of that because I'm responsible to make sure that they get everything that they are investing in and it works and it's going to be, and durability is critical to me. It's got to last.
Yeah.
It's got to be there.
And that's tough to find this day and age.
Yeah.
Everything's built to be thrown away.
Yeah, working with a new build, I was really shocked to hear the guy from the appliance store go, well, basically, appliances are 5 years. Maybe you can get 5 years out. I'm thinking, God, my grandfather's cast iron refrigerator from 80 years ago still runs perfectly. But it's true. It's sad, but it is true how much of it's plastic and throwaway. And right now I'm working with a couple where she's like, I am not going to buy a dishwasher with a plastic base, period, inside. That has to be metal. Yep. It's just ridiculous that it's plastic. It doesn't hold up, cannot heat as well when it's plastic. Things you don't think about, but so much more of our appliances and HVAC are just plastic.
Well, and that's why having a builder who's been around, who's seen things, can help you get through it. Because over the years with all the properties that we own, I've learned that there is one particular brand of appliance that is good, but wow, parts are 2 to 3 times as much if you can even get them. And so you, as a regular person, you don't know those things because that's not in your wheelhouse. You don't care what kind of a dishwasher I have. I just want it to wash dishes. That's it.
Yeah. And the give and take that's involved in building too, where it's like, okay, well, we can do these fixtures for your sinks all throughout the house. It's not the builder grade we normally do, so it's going to be higher. So we got to take something away somewhere else. You have that too, where if you're in a real strict budget, and that can get really dicey.
Right.
I've seen that get very, very dicey. Clients need to understand upfront change order forms, what they're used for, what they mean, and I love the fact where you're like, I'm very, very upfront with what all the costs are and the budgets, and then keeping that current through the process, because you have a process. Depending on the size of your home and what you're building, can be anywhere from 7 months to a year in a build. There can be a lot of changes along the way, and almost all of them are going to have a financial consequence. So keeping that open and upfront, and this is what it is very, very important.
Yeah, and the other thing I put a lot of emphasis on is buying local. I've been using the same company that supplies all of my appliances. I've been using them for 14 years. I have the same sales rep for 14 years, and to me, it makes a huge difference, because especially on service, because I don't care how good the appliance is, you're going to have some service down the road at some point.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people will call me 4 or 5 years down the road and say, hey, we got a little bit of a problem, and I'll say, let me get you in touch with this guy, and then it's all taken care of. So I love local. The place where you kind of run into difficulties with that is light fixtures, because people like to go to Wayfair and places like that.
Sure.
And pick out light fixtures.
Amazon.
Temu.
Amazon. But for
That's what you'll get.
Typically I don't bid a house with builder grade. I bid a house with, and then if I need to step it back, then I can. And so
that's a great idea.
Yeah. Because those are things that they're just gonna cause problems down the road if you don't.
One thing I always tell people when I meet a new client and we're talking marketing, right, is if something goes wrong, you want to be able to climb in your car and slap somebody, as opposed to go to the airport, get on a plane, fly to the coast to slap somebody. You need somebody close by to solve the problem, because
Again,
the guy in California don't care.
Yeah,
the relationship is everything. Yeah, exactly.
So now, when it comes to when you're building a home, trying to find those cost savings, as people are going, maybe we really do need a master bathroom. Do people always finish their basement, and you go, you know what, maybe we only finish half the basement? Are those the kinds of cost savings that something you can do in the future?
Yeah, I try to have kind of a menu of things. If the house if the house is a walkout, finishing a basement is fairly easy. If it isn't, I talk to people about, if you don't want to completely finish the basement, we're going to frame it out. Well, you have to do the electric. They won't let you not. That's a code issue. Let's get it to drywall, because getting the drywall down the stairs, you're going to have to use shorter pieces. It's going to be a huge mess.
Bigger expense.
Yeah, more expense. So I try to do some of those kinds of things. There are certain things that I have gotten to the point where I won't give on. Used to be I would talk with people about humidifiers. Well, if you're going to have wood floors in your house, you're going to have a lot of wood trim, you got to have a humidifier. So that's just part of the base bid, But I just have these things that we can go through. There's a point where if you need to find some money, maybe you put laminate countertops in bathrooms, because you can come back in 5 years and tear those out and put quartz or granite, or
Right.
So I try to talk through a lot of different scenarios and things that they could do, and try to help them come to some kind of decisions about what's more important.
When I show homes that that were built, maybe they were built in 2015 and now they're selling their home, and the basement hasn't been finished, what buyers see when that happens is they see finishing that basement being 3 times what it really costs to finish it. Right. And so you're looking at 4 homes, so it's really easy to blow one off. So when people are building, I always go, at least frame it out, drywall it if you can, have those steps done, because in the future, that's one place in resale I think it makes a difference. Yeah, you'll always be able to sell your home, but you want as many eyes on it as possible, get the best offers possible. People see things that are unfinished as going to cost 3 or 4 times what they really will.
Right.
You know.
See, and isn't that interesting? Because I see that and I go, I'd rather have a basement not finished because that's a blank canvas to me.
Right,
but
there
I bet
aren't a lot of
I've
use.
never thought about it
You're
from the other
very
side.
unique.
Well,
like, you
yeah.
are unique. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't say that. I'm unique as a buyer. Just
right.
Because
Well, you're right. I mean,
do.
People with a construction mind or building, yeah, that's a thing. I'm just talking about kind of your general thing. I just think in building, when I'm working with people that are building, I highly suggest, if you can, finish your basement.
Yeah.
I don't care if you finish it to the top notch, all the way done, but have the basics done, like you were saying. And, you know, I always think that's a good idea.
Well, and I think, too, do it while you can put it on a 30-year loan, because it's a lot easier to pay for something over 30 years than go, oh, geez, the washing machine's out. Now I have to pay it all up front. Very good. Well, we got a break coming up here, so we are going to run to that real quick. We're talking with Denny Van Horn, Van Horn Custom Homes, and we will be back right after the break.
Lincoln's entrepreneurs, one conversation at a time. 402 Business Insider on 1499.3 KLIN.
And you're back on the 402 Business Insider talking with Denny Van Horn of Van Horn Custom Homes. This segment is brought to us by Complete Family Dermatology and Western National Bank. Those guys are fantastic and perfect timing, because you're going to have to talk to a banker at some point if you're going to be talking to Denny at some point, right?
Correct.
So, go out there and have a chat with them. They are fantastic. So let's talk about family, because it's a family business, and I have family in business. Well, I work for my wife, so she has family in her business. And so it's you, your wife, your son, right? Daughter-in-law?
Right. Correct. Yeah.
Tell us about that. How do you working with family it can be good, it can be bad.
Well, it's been good. As I said earlier, this company is kind of a rebirth of the company my dad and his brothers and my grandfather had. And so, we have shared values. And that's absolutely critical. Mm-hmm. Our goal, everybody's goal, is we want to build a quality home that we can be proud of and that we would live in ourselves. And it must be working, because I just finished my third home for my son and daughter-in-law.
Oh, wow.
So
nice.
They must like
it. They like you.
Yeah. but yeah, so and they were living in a suburb area of Milwaukee, and Andy was he was a supervisor for State Farm agents in a part of Milwaukee and surrounding areas, and he got an opportunity to do the same thing here in Lincoln, and so he moved back, and they said, let's start a business. And so that was kind of where we started, and it's worked out well. I do basically I do all the project work and get the customers going and all of that. And Andy does the paperwork, the billing, and all of the stuff that I hate doing, which makes it really good for me.
Sure.
And then and everybody picks up when I need extra help cleaning and this and that. Everybody's doing that, so it's been really good. It works well.
Is there any advice that you would give, because we talk to a lot of hope-to-be entrepreneurs, people who are just getting ready to get started? Give them some advice about going into business with family.
Well, I think that the main advice is, and this thread of relationships works through all of this, and I think a part of it is building relationship, and that the relationships and those relationships have to be on shared values. You have to truly believe in the values for your company, for everybody to get total buy-in. And I think if you can do that, it really works out. So,
amen. Yeah, and that develops a culture, which is very important.
Yeah.
Your culture needs to be something acceptable to everybody. Everybody believes in that. And even another very important step of that are standards. What are your standards? I see people that will break their standards for one thing or another. Or I need the dollar. I need to get this sold. So I'm going to break that standard a little bit and do this, or cut this, here where I wouldn't do something. And standards are very important. Your standards are very high, and you stick with your standards. I can tell that. I mean, I know that, but besides, if I didn't know that and wasn't in real estate, I know that from something you said today, where you're on the project, you're there, you're checking, you're making sure things are going real well. I was working with a builder who built, they built a good house, but it was a challenge a lot of the ways, where it's like, oh, you don't know what just happened this week? Because it was a surprise to us too. So those things are important. Those are your standards, part of your culture, part of everything that you're talking about, which is very important. So your daughter-in-law, Michelle, is in, I've used her in business a lot as a mortgage broker. Right. And one thing I love about her and her standards are that I know if she says something, I can live with it. It's going to happen. She's not telling me something I want to hear or that my client wants to hear. She's just calling an apple, and I know I can move forward with it. And you just don't see that everywhere. So those standards and those values are so very important. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And communication. With family, communication is huge. Yeah. It used to be that, Travis would call me and say, hey, Shannon said this, and I don't know, what do you think? And I have to go to Shannon and go, Shannon, why'd you say that? Travis. Now they just talk to each other. And it works so much better for the family business. Yeah, there you go. Right? Okay, that never happened, but it'd be pretty funny. Watch Shannon call me this week sometime.
Yeah, she probably will.
Guess what Travis did?
So when you got started, what was your first big win? What was that big, this is going to work, this is going to be successful? Did you have a big win?
Oh, I don't know. I guess a part of it was the first home I was building was in a development where there were other longtime builders, and as I was putting this thing together, I would get some mentoring, and I think my first big win was that these guys said, this guy understands it, he's got it, he knows how to do this. And so it was that affirmation that I wasn't just above my head, that I knew what to do, and that affirmation from longtime builders. And I had quite a few relationships with builders, because when I was in charge of vocational education, I joined Home Builders Association so that I could utilize those guys. And so I had these home builders that I had worked with, because they did things for our kids in the schools and this and that. But I'd say that was my first big win, was, this guy knows what he's doing.
And you were the president of the Home Builders for a long time, weren't you?
I was. I did a 1 year.
That's where all your hair went, right?
Yeah, no, because I'll tell you what, the values of the Home Builders Association of Lincoln are much like my values of, we're a part of this community and we're going to pay back. We do a bunch of stuff. We have what's called the Lincoln Care Foundation, which is our foundation, and we fund scholarships. We have a ramp, and when somebody has bad luck or something and they call and want the ramp, we go out, we set this ramp up to make a house handicap accessible. And we just resurrected. We kind of lost it when COVID hit, but we do an annual toy building project and give the toys to the Lincoln Police Union, and they give them out at Christmas. We resurrected it this year for the first time since, I think it was 2020.
You've been doing this a while.
Yeah, since 2020 and COVID, and I think we had 125 builders, suppliers, subcontractors, and their families, because we make it a family deal. And so I've always really bought into, how do you have these guys that are on during the week, every day, they're fairly fierce competitors, and then they come in and something needs to be done for the community, and we're side by side, and it's like, let's get this done. And so, and then the other thing we have a big emphasis on is trying to prepare students to be a future part of our industry. And so
And that's crucial.
It is.
That is crucial.
It is.
Very
and
much
it's,
so.
And it's not, you can't just give it lip service. You have to do things. And, we have a big annual career fair, and we just do a lot of things. We give out scholarships to students who are going to go to either a community college or the university in the area of construction. And so it's a great organization. There's a lot of mentoring that gets done. And that's pretty critical in our industry, because you can't just, there are some people who have decided they're going to become a home builder, and they buy a pickup and they put a sign on their truck and they think they can build houses.
Yeah. And
it just doesn't happen. And I mean, I don't think people, I pride myself in my scheduling. I don't have a computer program. I've built this Excel spreadsheet that I do all of my budgeting with and all of my scheduling, and being able to schedule construction of a house where you've got to consider weather, you got to consider supplies and materials may not be there, subs may not be there. That you can't just do that.
Yeah.
You need some help learning that and being mentored with that. And that happens all the time in the Home Builders Association. And we're no different than a lot of associations. I just say to people, if you're in a profession where there's a professional association, the benefits from being members in that a member in that's going to far outweigh whatever the cost is.
Oh, yeah.
And people say, well, what's it cost to belong to the Home Builders Association at $1,200 a year? And I think it's $325 a year, and you get that back pretty quickly.
Really quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like way less than if you're not.
Yeah,
Right.
That's what it costs.
Yeah, the education is well worth it. And I have a few more questions on that, but we have a break coming up here. So when we come back, I want to chat a little bit more about home builders. You're listening to the 402 Business Insider, talking with Denny Van Horn of Van Horn Custom Homes, and we will be back right after the break.
Where Nebraska business owners tell their story. 402 Business Insider on 1499.3 KLIN.
Welcome back to the 402 Business Insider on this beautiful Saturday morning. And this segment is sponsored by the Lincoln Airport and the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce. I'm glad to say I'll be flying out of the Lincoln Airport here in a couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Save some great money. Actually, flying west is great now out of LNK, by the way.
And Rachel's going to come talk to us next week from the airport.
That's right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that'll be cool.
Can't wait to talk to her. And then, of course, the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce. Jason was in a while back, and they're just doing some amazing work down there.
Yeah.
He gave a ton of credit to his team, and he really has a great team. But to have a great team, you have to have a great leader. Mm-hmm. Jason's very, very good at this, and great resource for our community, the Chamber. If you're not a member, think about joining.
And you're a member, aren't you?
I am. Yeah. They do amazing work for this community. I don't know if you've been down to the new Sand Hills Global Baseball Complex.
It's amazing,
softball.
isn't it?
It is. I've coached youth baseball for years and years. I actually just retired this year, but I've been all over the Midwest to complexes in California and Arizona, and that place is by far the best.
Wow.
It was designed by local firms, Olson and Associates and Sinclair Hilly, and they have a local guy. If you don't know the name Fagler in Lincoln, Nebraska, Joe Fagler's the manager of that place out there, and his dad, Bill, with some other guys, started Baby Ruth Baseball.
Nice.
They have been, and I got to talk to Joe. We had a tournament. I was side director for the Cyclones tournament a couple weeks back, and spent some time talking to Joe, and the guy has such a vision for what's going to happen out there. I believe the number this summer for their first spring summer is they had 2,700 games booked out there.
That's amazing.
Jeez.
Wesleyan, that's Wesleyan's.
Wesleyan's,
home now, right?
yeah. Wesleyan's got their home baseball field there and home softball field. The university chipped in some money to make the Wesleyan field a little bigger so they can practice there. But it's an amazing thing, and I know the Chamber and Jeff Mall and those guys, they've been a huge part of making that thing a success, and Lincoln should be really proud of themselves. It's 30 years past when it should have been, but it's here, and it is great.
Yeah,
That's
it
cool.
looks beautiful when you
That
drive
is
by.
cool. And speaking of important, being a member of an association, not just chamber, but we were talking about H-ball. And one thing that you had mentioned that I kind of wanted to, you're talking about scheduling and learning these things from other builders. I mean, one well-placed, poorly placed rainstorm can knock your drywallers off the schedule, because you never think of those chain reactions that happen because, geez, the foundation just got pushed off a week. That
Concrete
means
workers,
everybody.
Yeah. That's been an issue. We've had a wet, spring and summer, especially late spring and early summer wet. And I mean, I'm working on negotiations on a new build right now, and concrete was going to be laid like 3 different times now.
Oh, man.
It's like, okay, it'll eventually get laid, but it's like...
Well, and I will tell you, a lot of the fallback for when stuff like that happens is having a good relationship with your subcontractors. And I will tell you, I am still using the same subcontractors except for plumber and trim carpenter, and the trim carpenter retired, so I got a new trim carpenter, and the plumber he was doing other jobs and it just got to be too much. But I've had the same subs that I've had for 14 years, and I've built strong relationships with them. They know my expectations. I know theirs. I know the quality of work they do, and they're giving me a fair price. And I pay them. I get a bill. They get paid within 30 days.
You see, that's it right there.
They will pretty much drop everything and come do what I need done when I need it done.
Which is so important.
And you know what? I've learned so much from these guys. They have taught me a lot about scheduling and all of that, and how to work with subs, and so it's all. I keep coming back to the importance of that relationship building. It's critical.
And you don't have to be a home builder to be a member of of H-ball. I mean, we're members, and we're a marketing firm. And there's plumbers, there's electricians, these are a good group of people that you want to get in and talk with. So, you don't have to be a home builder to be a member of H-ball.
That's correct.
So it's something you should look into. I know a couple of realtors that are members in there too. So it's always a great fit. So now, as president of H-ball, what exactly did that entail?
Well, it was I basically providing leadership, although I will tell you that our executive, we call her vice president, but basically what would be the executive director, Michaela Schwarten, has been with Home Builders Association for over 25 years. And so she's always right there to give you an elbow or kick you under the table when you're not doing quite right. But it was to provide leadership and to try and help everybody stay on track and have the shared goals of the association to basically support home builders and subcontractors and suppliers, and to better our community. And so it's a pretty cohesive group of people, and there are people that have been members for over 50 years.
Wow.
And all good associations have that person that's been there 25 years, who's the person's kind of behind the scene. It adds continuity, stability to the organization, and it's a very, very important thing. It's easy to be a president easier to be a association president when you have someone like that behind you.
Absolutely. And during the time I was president, we started doing quarterly meetings with building and safety. We started doing quarterly meetings with the with city council people, just so that we knew they weren't always going to agree with what we were going to say, and we weren't always going to agree with what they were going to say, but we knew where we all stood. And I just think that those interactions have been helpful because we've continued them on.
When you meet with the city council, do you take Advil, ibuprofen, Tylenol? What do you take before those meetings? I'm just curious,
Yeah.
Looking down the road.
I'm not as involved in those meetings now, but for the most part, it's they listen. They have the same goals as we do. They're just, they have to deal with the